Hello, friends, family, and keepers of the faith, to another Del Boy end of week blog. And we always date stamp these. So it's year two blog 32, or in legacy numbers, blog 84. And the end of the week date is the 1st of October 23. We're in October. So what's that? Something like 80 odd days till Christmas. But I think what October brings to me, or what I've noticed in my YouTube history, is that we prepare for Halloween. We start thinking about um, what we've watched film wise for Halloween, what games we've played Halloween, all of that sort of stuff. Um, to me, back in the day, it would be we're now definitely back at school. The weather's changed. Rain, rain, rain. Cross country running. I always remember that. Probably because I hated it. But this week has been a bit mixed, really. Lots and lots of good. Been on a few chat panels in the film side of what I do. Um, Work has been a bit weird because I had a team meeting on Monday for a whole day because it was a team meeting that they do per every quarter where we go to London. But of course, with my health and my caring responsibilities, going to London is not quite possible for me at the moment. But that was interesting. The whole of Monday taking up with some of the things that are going on in my team, around my team, and some quizzes and little tasks we had to do. I think one of the tasks was using just sheets of paper. How tall could we build a construct? That was quite interesting doing that over the phone. But my team did pretty well. And then there was a quiz. Weird quiz because it was like general knowledge, pictures, all of that sort of thing. But there was one film or song question in the whole of it. It was it was all pictures of of famous monuments and general knowledge, like a sport that was played on the moon. If anybody knows that, that would have been golf, um, that sort of thing. So, but it was interesting, and the rest has been sort of like training and prep, really, because a mentor of mine is got 3 days off, and we need to cover. And of course, my training is not quite there to cover, so that's led to a lot of discussion. Why it's taken so long for me to get to that point, which, if anybody who watches my blog knows that for huge amounts of time, um, I needed to get my holidays done. So I wasn't doing 5 days a week, which meant training was easier. I was going into work for 2 or 3 days, for a huge chunk, and therefore training is slower. So, it's one of those things that we'll sort out next week, but it fills me with a bit of dread because, from my point of view, when somebody is despondent, I feel it must be my responsibility that they are despondent. I'm going to try getting out of that a little bit this year. I managed to get one more lawn mower cut yesterday. It did rain on Thursday. There was dew on the grass Friday. There was dew on the grass Saturday, but the sun came out enough for it to dry that, and it didn't churn up a lot of dirt or anything. So that was good because I'm monitoring because it's a petrol mower. I'm monitoring the petrol level of the mower because you need to drain the petrol out when it's the last mow of the year. Um, Apparently, we're going to get some sun on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, which means I might get another lawnmower in just yet. And that's pretty much really unheard of, I feel, for October with petrol mowers. Fly mow mowers, possibly, those ones that hover with a strimmer at the bottom. But petrol mowers are heavy. They churn up, the wheels churn up the dirt. So we'll see. We'll see. And then it'll be time for me to get the old leaf blower out. Oh, God, I'm not looking forward to that. Today is overcast. But generally in myself, I'm tired, a bit concerned about a training course I'm on, not this week, but the following week. It's a 3-day course with an exam at the end. It's an ITIL 4 foundation course. Look that up if you wish. I am ITIL 3 foundation qualified. I passed the exam just about 4 or 5 years ago. ITIL 4 is the new standard. The company I work for, the MOJ, don't seem to be interested in the exam, more about the coursework that you go on, which probably puts a little bit of ease to me, but I want the exam because it's a qualification to other companies that recognize your abilities. If you just do the course, it's nothing, is it? You've done it. They expect you to know it. For me, exams scare me. Generally, because I don't feel I hold a lot of information in my head as well as other people. I've always valued courses where you have coursework and you're marked for that, and you have an exam at the end and you're marked for that, sort of like a 50-50 or sometimes 60-40, and therefore the stress on the exam is less because I'm quite good at coursework. I'm one of those people that I feel put a lot of effort into writing my notes, pictures, showing knowledge, interacting in classes with building, like a computer or whatever it is, or working out why a network is not working, all of that sort of stuff. Great. Go into an exam and there's these questions, and I sometimes get a bit mixed up with the question they're asking because of the way they ask the question. They always try and fool you, by using, like an S at the end of a statement, instead of saying name more than one, it will be choose the following that are prevalent to this question, and I'll tick one, and it should have been two, so they don't class it as a pass. You don't get half a mark. You didn't choose all of them, did you? So I don't like it. But hey, we're waffling again a little bit. Let's stay on track. We always do the news, and as you know, the news is just to put things in a date stamp on this blog so that I can remember what was going on in the world at the time of this blog. So the news, we start off with the Ukraine war. We always do while it continues. My blog started with the war just started. My blog will end when the Ukraine war finishes. I should say not the blog, but the mention of the Ukraine war. So what did I write down? This is what was interesting to me when I was looking at the news. British troops could deploy to Ukraine for the first time to train soldiers, says the Defence Secretary Grant Shapps. He states the proposal being discussed would reduce reliance on UK and other NATO members. Shapps also suggested that Britain was preparing to help Ukraine counter the Russian army targeting the Russian army targeting of cargo ships on the Black Sea. So the whole article was more about they want tanks, they want planes, There was a big kerfuffle on it, where they said some of the planes we can't supply because they're not trained to fly them. They can fly the older type, but not the newer type, which means that they need us to help, and we can't fly those planes and take them into battle because of Ukraine was not part of NATO. So they can't be deemed to look and act that way. But what they can do is train. So it looks very much like they're going down that route now. The counter attack has worked to a point. It hasn't stopped, but it has probably reduced the time. It's helped by kicking back the Russians slightly, so they're not taking over huge territories as they were. My opinion, as you know, I just want the war to end. I wish that we just sit round a table, talk about this. But as I mentioned in the last blog, I don't see that happening before Christmas. I have my fingers crossed that it can just end at any moment, but doubtful. No opinions again from me in relation to this, other than I've always been steadfast against with that the Ukraine are in the right with this, and the Russia is using propaganda and all sorts of stuff to make it look like they've been hard hit over this. So what else have we got? The one bad news in the UK that was all over the news, I think Friday, is that there's a famous tree. So here we go. Hadrian's Wall sycamore gap tree was felled in a vandalism act by a suspected 16-year-old boy. The 2016 in 2016, the National Heritage named it Tree of the Year. It's been used in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and is visited by thousands every year. Yes, vandalism. Hate vandalism. I don't even like street art and all of that sort of stuff. I like clean. I like pristine. I'm one of those people. I do know that we have a freedom to express, but I've always found it's just a mess with people's signatures and I was here and this girl is a slag or something like that, some derogatory statement. I don't like it. You go into London, you're on the train going to Paddington, you're going through lots and lots of tunnels. As soon as you get close to London, full of graffiti and all sorts of stuff. Never really liked it. I do know there are some fantastic works of art, but those should be controlled art. Pieces that have been chosen to be done on a wall or to make a mural. But let's go back to the tree. It's such a sad thing because what did the tree do to anybody? It's been there for years and years and years. It's a national treasure type thing, and we can't protect these things. This particular tree is like miles away from anywhere. It's along Hadrian's Wall. You can't put scaffolding and all that sort of stuff around it. So there are lots of these little monuments, the pieces of nature that we need to protect. They can't be protected, so some sod comes along and chops things down for reasons unknown. Atrocious. So just to end this week, there's been a couple of deaths that hit me a little bit. First one was for David McCallum. Now, for people who don't know who David McCallum was, he's an actor. He died at the age of 90 on Monday. And he did lots and lots of childhood programs that I watched. The Man from U.N.C.L.E., Sapphire and Steel, The Invisible Man. I remember my mum and dad sitting down and watching Colditz, a dramatisation of the Colditz story. So, of course, tributes came in from all over the place this week, respecting the body of work that he's done. And there was a lot on the news of people that had collections, like of Uncle memorabilia, the TV series The Man from Uncle. And it was just lovely to see all of that. But sad to know that another childhood actor has now left. And it's just going to get worse, I suppose, the older I get. And then on Friday, just to dovetail it all, Michael Gambon died at the age of 82. Michael Gambon is one of those actors that I've seen like throughout the years and forget what they've been in. You know what I mean? They've just always been there, got one of those faces. I do remember him in The Singing Detective, because The Singing Detective was one of those shows that was very controversial. Very controversial. It was a weird detective type show, but it was set mostly with him in a bed with sores, some type of disease or sores that he had to have. He had to have cream rubbed into him all the time he was there. It was like he'd been burnt or something. I think it was a disease. But it made him recount tales of him being a detective. Whether that was, I can't quite remember now, whether that was just memories or whether that was just him dreaming that he was a detective. I think it was a dream. He was also in Harry Potter. Many Harry Potter films. And of course, I used to be big into watching Top Gear. And he did so badly on the course, this race course that Top Gear had each week, that they named one of the corners after him. They called it Gambon Corner, I believe. And it always used to make me laugh because his name would be mentioned virtually every week. And we're now approaching Gambon Corner, and went round that corner badly. All of that sort of stuff from Clarkson and the team. So very sad news. Two more that have left us. Acts of vandalism and war. What can we say really, other than it's a very hateful, horrible world we're living in at the moment. And we'll leave the news there. I'll have a little bit of a product placement. Here we go. Freshly squeezed again. Oh, so much better. Love orange juice. Just other colours are available, but if you want orange, it's orange. And we'll move to the shout-outs. We all know why I do the shout-outs. I'm very happy and what's the word? Honoured that people will write a comment just to see how I am. Sometimes to ask a question. Humbled is another word that comes to mind. There is a few things that have upset me this week. Well, not upset me, but I'm unsure why. This week's, or should I say last week's blog, which was quite a bit long and had a number of jump starts, I understand that. And he had 10 likes, and therefore it had a number of dislikes, which is the first time in a long time that my blog has had a dislike. But nobody wrote anything bad about my blog. What caused them to put dislikes? It tells me nothing. I think Mainmeister said it best. He said, never understood the dislike button. Of course, I'm very proud of what I do with my blog. I try not to let the numbers affect me too much. But if you have a couple of people that put a dislike on, it drops your percentage down. And and I've never had a percentage go below 90%. So it looks very much like a couple of people must have hit dislike, and with only 10 likes, it meant that the percentage is very close to going into the 80% mark. And that upsets me a little bit. I can understand people not liking a statue video or a game video or an unboxing video. The blog is really answering your questions, got a few trailers and things in it. Don't quite understand it. But anyway, let's do the shout out, shall we? So, shout outs this week come from Martroid, LFC Gamer and Vlogs, Colin Jones, aka Ponder, David's Retro Games Played Badly, Seb's Place, Jambon, Robert's Retro Gaming, Mainmeister, Gaming Since the 70s, Denny Haynes, and Paul Patrick. And for all of those, thank you so much. It's really nice that you check that I'm okay, express what you like about the blogs, comment, leave questions, all of that. Absolutely lovely. Thank you so much. Just to add, a couple of weeks ago, an old person who used to watch the blog called Rocket Bunny finally came back and said hello. He was the person I used to work on I used to play games on the Valheim server that he bought, and that was taken down about 2 months ago. But he came back. He's playing more PC games again. He's just bought Starfield, the new game, which I've got. We haven't met in the game just yet. He expressed that work has been really hectic. He checked to see if anybody was playing on the Valheim server before taking it down. I couldn't see that anybody had. That's a little bit my fault, because before he left, I was going to just one place on the map and building it up. If he didn't know that, he would look at the map and see that there was nothing new uncovered. And if there's nothing new uncovered, nobody must be playing it. It's his money as well, so it was taken down. No, but going past all of that, it was just really nice to have a little chat. It was through Steam, so it was a bit like very disjointed. Writing a message, 5 minutes later there would be one back. I'd write a reply, 5 minutes later there'd be one back, till the point where no more are coming through. Bit like that. So not exactly real time. But it was just great to get caught up again. And it was great to see Milfy Swimbuckle as well in our Discord channel playing some games. About time that I think that he took a step back a little bit and started to enjoy himself rather than try writing puzzling questions for me. But, we miss those sometimes, don't we? But it just makes me smile to know that finally somebody is taking time for themselves. Do you know what I mean? To enjoy themselves. So we'll go to the questions, if there are any. This might go quite quickly, who knows? But we'll start off in no particular order. These are just as I see them on the screen at the moment. I've not done it in alphabetical order. I haven't put it as newest first or anything like that. And it starts off with Robert's Retro Gaming. I think, let's see what it says. Hi, Del. I hope you are well. I haven't managed much YouTube watching time in the last couple of weeks. With luck, I'll be able to watch your next one. That's coming up tomorrow for me, today for you. So that one's quite new. And not a problem, Robert. Your output is huge. You've got to work. You've got a family. It's very nice that you wanted to show that you're still around. You're still supporting me. What more can I possibly ask other than thank you so much for continuing to watch when you can. So we'll go to the next one, which is Paul Patrick. And he's put, hi, Del. What's your thoughts on the new Raspberry Pi 5? Have you pre-ordered one? The specs look a good bit better than the Pi 4. Um, yeah, I knew that the Raspberry 5 was in development. I knew it was coming out. I didn't know it was actually officially launched. Um, I love the idea of the Raspberry Pi. I was much more a fan around about the Raspberry Pi 2. I had the B model. That was the first one I bought. I love the idea of a board that you can just do what you want with, connect what you want. You could program it to boil the kettle, do what you want, really. Um, so, now that we're up to Raspberry 5, it just shows its success a little bit. It's had its knockings through the year, mostly because of lag and mostly from the emulation commodity. And I can understand that and I can respect it as well. But it is incredibly cheap. We are talking, in the early days, a sub £50 board that you could basically put in a housing and you've got an emulation device. Absolutely fantastic. So what I know is that the Raspberry 5 is obviously going to have a faster processor in it. It'll have the newest processor in it. I believe this time it's got a slightly... So other than the slightly increased clock, it's got the integrated graphic process unit that would be inside the chip as well is much more of a superior upgrade over the Raspberry Pi 4. I think there are some other subtle things that they've done. I think it's got a faster USB port. I know it's got 2 micro HDMI ports because I remember listening to the speculation of what that could be used for. And I think the biggest thing that will probably help it, and it might even help with lag, is it's got a faster PCI Express bus. So basically, it will get to its newer version of RAM, which will be again a faster RAM clock cycle, and it will talk to the CPU through a faster bus speed. So we'll see. It's not all about speed. HDMI is one of those things where it's how the board talks to the video device. So not necessarily is speed help, because you can buy the fastest speed cables and all sorts and you'll still get lag. So I wish it well. I've got no need for one at this moment. But you never know. There's going to be that time where I'm going to go, damn, I need a new Raspberry Pi, or my old one will break. They're not made with the most hardiest of equipment. Chips can blow, pins can get broken or bent. But anything that's continues to grow and aid us, I'm a big fan of. You know what I mean? So thanks very much for that, Paul. I hope that answers your question. And we move to the next one, which is my old mate Denny. Yes, he's left me a message, and we know Denny from old. Never shy with coming forward with statements and questions. So it's usually quite long, and I love all of that. Gives me a lot to read, really. So what's he put? He's put, "Hiya, mate. Hope you and your mother are well and had a good week. Your energy levels look good this week. There was a lot of jump cutting, and there might be jump cutting in this because I've just heard that somebody's starting to mow their lawn. So that might happen again. And of course, my mother sometimes needs to come into the room. She knocks on the door. You can't hear it because of the noise compression, but I can hear it. I don't think my mother really has snapped out of the anniversary of my dad's death from about 3 weeks ago. I definitely have seen a memory change where she is definitely forgetting things closer now that only have happened, in the last hour, compared to memories of how things were back when she was a child. She's still quite sharp there, but I I will basically come out of in a break at work, because I'm working from home, and an hour later it'll be time for my dinner, and I'll go, right then. What do we need from the shop? And she said she wouldn't remember that I already had that conversation an hour earlier. So yeah, bit concerning. Still, she seems okay. She's eating. Got a few snivels like anybody would get. I'm hoping she gets a flu injection. She'll get that herself when she goes and gets her hair done on a Friday. She'll go into a Boots or somewhere where they can tender to women of a certain, or men of a certain age that don't go to the doctor's surgeries as much. I think flu jabs can now be done at chemists. So anyway, we continue. I think the trouble with the war is the trouble with all wars, is that they never end. It's just a recycle wherever the war takes it or ends up. In some countries, they will never be peace there as long as they've got holes up their ass. There's a statement right on the end. And yeah, I have to sort of agree with that. You always hear about troubles in the Mideast, and they constantly always in the news. They died down, they come back. Just a shame why we can't live together in harmony. I blame a lot of it on religion. So many wars have been holy wars. Obviously, there are other reasons, more complex than I could discuss. But yeah, in the whole, I agree with that. Great idea about keeping awake on your car journeys playing games. Keep the mind active and alert. The health shop you was thinking of was Holland and Barrett. Yeah, you know how it is when you listen to the word and you go Barrett and you think the only thing I can think of with Barrett is Barrett Holmes. What am I talking about? So thank you for clarifying with that. Yeah, and no change there yet. I still haven't done much about sleep my sleep problems, but it's on my to-do list and definitely gonna get that sorted as fast as I can. You continue. Anybody who has anything to say about Russell Brand is think about this. Anybody who has anything to say about Russell Brand is think about if this was you being accused. How would you feel? As of yet, this guy hasn't even been cautioned, let alone arrested. Yeah, I summed it up, didn't I, by saying trial by media, and I stick by that statement. The media want nothing but to get a news story. Doesn't matter who they're hurting. They don't care whether it's the truth or not. Somebody said it, then they'll publish that name and then do 3, 4, 5, 6 pages of the paper talking about and dredging up lots of crap. Awful. And then, of course, us as gullible people listen to it, watch it, and make our own decision on it. And usually it's the bad one because he is a character. And as a character, you love him or hate him. He's very Marmite. So, yeah, not great, is it? I still say Dungeon Keeper 1 was the best of the two. The playability was much better, in my opinion. Wish someone would consider a number 3. Yeah, we were talking about Dungeon Keeper. In fact, Dungeon Keeper came up in a later story that I've got in my blog because I did a podcast with Mainmeister and I labelled it Dungeon Keeper as one of the titles that I would take to a desert island with me. The trouble with Dungeon Keeper is with Bullfrog Gone, all you've really got are fan people that want to make their own type of version. The last good one of those I played was Dungeons 3, which sort of has 2 battle planes to it. There's a top, when you're on top of the world, and then there's the dungeon heart, which seems to be underground rather than through a cave system and then get to it. So it's not on the same plane. It's very much, it helps to differentiate between what's going on, because you've got a battle that you can have at the outside at the top, but you can also set up all your traps in your own little dungeon world. Dungeons 3 is great. It comes up all the time in sales. The graphics are top notch. It's just not Dungeon Keeper, if you see what I mean. It tries to be more without actually being more. It loses what made Dungeon Keeper work from my perspective. It was its simplicity. It was the turnaround of being bad rather than good. It was the thinking that if you're going to bring in creatures, they need to eat, they need to drink. You have to build areas where there was things called a hatchery that would then encourage chickens to come in, and that would then become food for your minions. All of that sort of stuff. It was absolutely great to have all of that in that game. Made you think. So we continue. Thanks for the answer to my question. Great reasoning, as you say. Food may have been cold. Yeah, I do remember that. We were talking about phone calls that they don't end, food that they seem to prepare for themselves. They have an argument and then rush out the door. All that sort of stuff that goes on in acting circles that really pisses off as watchers. That was quite good. Shopping online for Blu-rays is a godsend, though food and clothes is a definite personal shop experience. Yeah, we were talking, weren't we, about pros and cons of shopping firsthand in the high street and shopping online. And I listed the fact that I wouldn't buy clothes online. Like certain clothes, like underwear, trousers, shoes. But there are certain things that I will. I've never had a problem buying a set of trainers from Nike, because I know my shoe size is 9.5 and they do half sizes. And I've never really had a problem with a t-shirt or some type of coat. But trousers and stuff where it becomes where you need a belt and your waist size and your leg size. Sometimes I'm a regular, sometimes I'm a short, sometimes there's more elasticity to the waist, so you don't need it quite so large a size. All that sort of stuff. I've always found that's a first-hand experience. The Sky broadband outage you was mentioning affected me. So many people kicking off when things do actually break down from time to time. Just shows how we can't do without certain things in our life now. And I take that one step further, because it did happen at night and I was streaming at the time. But if you've got a Sky box, that's it. You can't watch TV, because that's what their smart glass TV is all about. Literally, we had the digital aerial and then managed to continue to watch telly when the service went down. But we do so much online. It didn't affect people that wanted to surf the net using their mobile phone, but they would have to use their mobile data to do that. That's the SIM card that you've done. If you were to try and do it off of your Wi-Fi, you were dead in the water. So yeah, just goes. It's like losing a right arm to some people. It's like, oh, what am I going to do now? To me, I was just concerned, will it be up in the morning? It highlighted the fact that when I went to customer services, I really didn't have a way of getting in touch with them because the internet is down. If you didn't have the customer service telephone number down, you wouldn't be able to do much. Luckily, like I say, the phone allowed me to still connect to the internet, so I was able to get through. So that was great. You continue. Enjoyed your overview of Whizball. The C64 version is the perfect game. The others were poor. at best, except the PC remake version, which is exactly pretty much word for word what I said. There was a later PC version remake that actually is pretty sublime. I didn't like the Amiga and the Atari ST versions. They improved the graphics, but the feel didn't seem the same. The Commodore 64 version, super slick. And when Seb did his video, a battle comparison between three 8-bit versions, both Danny and I were both in the opinion that the 64 is the top one. Seb, who did the video, also thought the same, but it was the narrowest of margins. But I give it the biggest of margins. Push screen instead of scrolling? No. I'm sorry, but it's an arcade-ish type game. It's. I've seen games of Contra, which is an arcade run and gun, push screen scrolling for that. It's atrocious, awful to play. Makes it look cheap. The word I would come to. I enjoyed the story about Joanne, a happy memory unlocked by a retro video from one Mark played. This is the wonderful thing about looking back at a happy place. I would see it in your face. Yeah, Joanne was the girlfriend I always wanted but never got. Obviously, there's a lot of heartache there. Thinking back at it, it was like a first love. So you can imagine, you think the world's ending. You don't know why. You never got the answers of what is it about me that you don't like. I remember her constantly swooning over Jan Michael Vincent from Airwolf, who played Stringfellow Hawk, and saying how handsome Michael Knight was in Knight Rider, and all of that sort of stuff, which always put me edge. It's like, I look more like Sid James than I do any of those. I got no bloody chance. But you always think to yourself as you get older, and the more that your friendship and relationship will grow, that your own character will get you past those incredibly good-looking people. Plus, you think to yourself, fat chance of you going out with them. So lower your expectations. But hey, you win some, you lose some. You look back at history and you go, hey, do you know what? We could have got married and had 2 kids by now, and my whole life would be different, and I wouldn't be doing this blog. Hey, so we've gone down that route, guys, and look forward. Don't look too far behind you. Always have a happy balance. You continue. Quite a few Blu-ray and 4K releases this week. I see. I see. Doctor Who's Anniversary Season 20 box set and The 5 Doctors, which I think is a good story, but overdone by trying to fit too many monsters in it. Yeah, and this particular box set seems to have like 3 or 4 different cuts of that particular episode. I agree. Back in the day when it came out, when I was a younger person, younger man, what was I, 14? It was like, wow, this is an event. This is a real event. We've got my new Doctor that I'm still getting to grips with, and you got all these old ones that I've seen. Sell through and video sell through was now starting to grow. I was starting to get a Doctor Who collection. Episodes that I'd totally forgotten about were now I was able to get. And a milestone where you get all of these different Doctors together was still something that only happened once in a blue moon. So before the 5 Doctors, there was the 3 Doctors. And before that, nothing. So it was only the second time that they'd got all these Doctors together. Of course, it's something that's played upon now far too much. We've had 2 Doctors. We've had other Doctors as well come back for 60th anniversaries and 50th anniversaries. and you water down the concentrated liquid, if you see what I mean, the more you keep doing it. So I used to love the fact that it was sort of like quite rare. And yeah, it was just overdone because as each doctor was brought into play in this um, world that they'd set up for um, this particular episode, which was the dark zone or the black zone. It was Rassilon's tower anyway, and all sorts of stuff that was going on. It was a battlefield, zoned out. Um, you had all these monsters that were there, and they all seemed to just be just round the corner from where each of the doctors were in this battle zone. Bit too much, yeah, but a wonderful thing. The Fly by David Cronenberg is my favourite of his. Amazing remake and unforgettable moment of horror. How does Brundlefly eat? LOL. Yes. I think you're bringing up David Cronenberg because of one of the trailers. I was mentioning the other day in one of the chat panels that I was in that the last time I bought The Fly was in a DVD box set, which came with the teleportation pods from the latest Fly film. And I haven't seen a Blu-ray and a DVD release. Of course, they are out there, but not as a collection set. And I like collection sets. Now, The Fly was important to me because it's one of those ones that's at the end of the original Fly with Vincent Price from the 50s. Is a sort of like a monster science fiction film, but it has a classic ending where, because the transportation went wrong, there's a human with a fly's head and a fly's arm, but there is also the fly with a human head and a human arm. It ends in disaster for the scientist. And they're still looking for this fly with a white head, and it turns up in the garden, trapped up in a web, and the spider is just about to pounce on this fly that was trapped in the web, where Vincent Price heard the little voice, and it goes, help me, because it's very high pitched and small. Vincent Price didn't want that ending to happen because obviously it's a human head, so of course it was in peril. So he crushed it with a stone. I know that's a spoiler, but being as that film is 60 to 70 years old, I'm not going to feel too bad about that or lose any sleep. Go and watch that film. It's brilliant. So my question this week, mate. Infection Free Zone is a game you showed interest in a while ago. Have you played the latest demo? Question mark. Do you still like the concept of building a base anywhere in the game? Do you still plan to get it? 3 questions. Okay. And I haven't thought about it, to be quite honest, until the point that you just asked the question. But just to do a recap, because I recognise the title straight away, Infection Free Zone. It's a zombie-based game, but with a difference. What you do is you build a base and a fortress for yourself, and the zombies are obviously all over this map. But the uniqueness about this map is it can use Google Maps, which means you could set the game in your own street. And that pricked my interest. And I went, wow, wouldn't that be great that you put your own postcode in and you can then turn the houses in your street into little fortresses, and the zombies would be coming down your own street. Absolutely marvellous. The demos had never showed that aspect. They kept putting 3 specific maps that are from Google, but they weren't the ability to put your own in the demo, so you couldn't really show that off. But it did show the game off, and the game was interesting. It has all of those trappings of, if you send a squad of people into a building, if you do it in the day, it's less perilous. If you do it at night, the zombies come out, and it's dark, and so therefore there's going to be a greater part to you being attacked. So, am I interested in still getting it? Very much. Have I played any recent demos other than the one that I played? No, I didn't. They did do another update to the demo. It was during a festival that Steam was having, but I didn't have the time to pick up and play it that particular week, and it was only there for a week. Am I still gonna get it? Yeah. I think the very nature of the very idea of the Google Maps thing was too much of my attention to not want it. So thank you very much for that question. Okay, mate, as always, best wishes to yourself, and please say hello to your mother for me. Of course, that's coming. Thank you so much for that one. Denny. Brilliant. Then we got a little shout out from Mainmeister. Brilliant. I've been working with him this week because we did a podcast, but I'll talk about that later. He's put, thanks for the nice words, fella. Always appreciate. One for your, but here's a question for your next blog. Did you own any of the LED early tabletop handheld games like Astro Wars, Merlin, etc.? And he's probably forgotten, but we've talked about those quite a bit actually. Because I used to keep calling it Mr. Merlin, but of course it's Merlin. Merlin was one of those early electronic games that looked like a phone. It was red, and the buttons on it in the center, but they were very much in the same sort of mold as them being a number pad, which would make it a phone. Do you see what I mean? But it was a lot of electronic games like tic-tac-toe, which is just noughts and crosses, and things like that. So it was limited on what it could do, but it was interesting. Simon Says again is another one where you could play by yourself or you could have friends around and play it as a game. What it was a musical game, 4 colours, 4 sounds. It was the sequence that you had to get by repeating the sequence that you saw or heard. So it's great for the blind as well then. Didn't think about that. So yeah, love that. I had Astro Wars. Astro Wars was one of those games that was bought for you really for your birthday. I didn't get it at Christmas. I did get it for my birthday. Where I would always want a game for my console, like an Atari VCS. It didn't hurt me that I got these handheld LED games, but they were very, very limited. I had Astro Wars, which was my favourite, but I had Pac-Man, Space Invaders, a number of others. Different variations of quality is the best I can explain. They were limited anyway. More like playing a game and watch. And I'm probably mentioning all of this technology, and I'm still not really uncovering to you what was good about them. But they were fun because they were noisy, fun, a crowd pleaser because you could take it to school with you, playing in lunchtime, and everybody would want to go. Brilliant stuff. So I think I've really answered that. Yes, and I've named a couple as well on what I liked. It's such a shame that they sort of like phased them out really a little bit. And it's just their simplicity that let them down. So there's been a knock at the door, so I am going to have to do a cut. So just bear with me. Yeah, so sorry about that. My mother just needed me for a moment. So we'll carry on. Those were all the games, Mainmeister. I hope I gave a good answer to that. And we move to gaming since the 70s, which is my mate Steve. I always do my salute to Steve. Steve, absolutely great to get to you before. My salute to you, which is always in jest and fun. Up yours, you git. Anyway, hi Dell. Good blog as usual. I'm Russell Brand. Well, I'm not surprised. I've always thought that there was something dodgy about him for sure. I've not seen Mansell Red 5 yet. I'm not sure I'll watch it. I do love Nigel and remember him very fondly, but Williams. I lost all my love and respect for that team and Frank Williams, Patrick Head, and Adrian Newey back in 1994, and for that reason, I might give him a miss. We'll see, but I'll be happy to hear your thoughts on it when you've seen it. Yeah, and that's down for me to do, I have to say. Um, there are things like that that affect me as well. There have been sports programs where I know that there is a black mark in the nostalgia part of something that went on. Um, I think we've all seen them, like what was it, Zola Bud? Was it? There was a race between the American and Zola Bud, and one of them liked to run barefooted. The American caught the heel um, of Zola, I think it was. I'm pretty sure that I'm right with this, and basically was almost out of the race. They met up years later. They had a discrepancy from then on and didn't speak to each other for years and years and years. And then they met up, had a chat, walked away together out of the same stadium as that was held in. Um, Things like that are sometimes uncomfortable to watch, but you watch them because in this particular instance, there's not a happy ending, but there is a conclusion. That's the word I was looking for. So yeah, I will be watching it, but I totally get it. Now, 2 questions for you. Number 1, what is the last game that you regret buying and why? So I won't read the second one out. Let me think about this. What is the last game that you regret buying and why? Regret. Don't think I've ever regretted buying anything. I've been disappointed by what I've bought. I've always been excited about something, and then when I've got it, it's not been what I thought it was going to be. I think you get a bigger regret when you've spent more money on it, and it's taken a greater amount of time for it to come out, and it's not been what you want. I've always told the story of Rise of the Robots, a very mid to end 80s game that came out on the Amiga and Atari ST and a number of consoles, and it promised so much and didn't deliver. But there have been so many of those. So I think the word regret isn't that. Disappointment is what I've generally had, and I hope that's a good enough answer for you, because I've had greater regrets than a game, say, that have happened in my life, where regret is the right word. And 2, have you seen the 1973 film That'll Be the Day, featuring David Essex and Ringo Starr? And if so, do you like it? He continues, I love it because it's my era, and the music from Buddy Holly, the Evelyn Brothers, the Big Bopper, Little Richard, Del Shannon, Richie Valance, etc. just make me happy. Take care, mate, and I hope your mum is feeling better. That'll Be the Day. Now, I haven't thought about that film in a long time, but yes, That'll Be the Day and its follow-up, Stardust, are both in my collection, but I only have the DVD editions of them. The reason I bought those was I was in a spate of buying films that were sort of like semi-biographical. And what I mean by that is things like the Jolson story, about Al Jolson. Um, there have been lots of films about Buddy Holly. There have been films about swing and all that sort of stuff. James Stewart did the Glenn Miller story. All of that sort of stuff, which would be well before my era. That era, the 70s, it was really talking about the 50s and 60s, again, a little bit before me. But I liked the songs, and if I remember rightly, I later found out that it was loosely based around John Lennon, if I remember rightly, very, very loosely. It's about a person who wants to be part of a band or have a pop career, and and his journey from the 50s and the 60s to get to that point, which is where Stardust is the sequel. Was it a musical? Was it something that went on in the theatre? I'm not sure, But David Essex has been a staple point really through my career, but through my history. War of the Worlds, he was the artillery man. There's obviously a number of pop records that came out. And it was nice to see all these stars that were in those films. And I really ought to think about buying the Blu-rays. I think they came out 3 or 4 years ago. There could possibly be 4Ks of them now. But I do remember that I thought at one point when I saw them listed, I ought to upgrade my DVDs of those. But I hadn't watched the DVDs in a while. And even though the Blu-rays came out, I never went back to the DVDs to see if they were worth upgrading. So I'm going to have to do that. You've given me a to-do. To-do? Is there such a statement as that? And of course, I'll be speaking to my mum and say that you wished her hi. She'll love that. Thank you so much. I hope that was a good answer for you, Steve. My salute to you. Thank you so much. What do we get to next? We get to LFC Gamer and Vlogs. And he says, "Hi Del, great blog as per the norm, and hope it's all well with you and your mum. Sending my best wishes. I agree with you and Jambon in the sense of film industry in Hollywood. It's a right pig's ear for sure, which I feel has been this way for at least a decade. Only now it's become more of a toxic environment. Aside from the odd film here and there, I'm just so exhausted with the superhero genre, as well as the over-reliance of shoddy woke remakes, hint, hint, Disney, that should never see the light of day in theatres. And yet, there we are. I'm not saying cinema's dead. Look at how well Oppenheimer, and far better or for worse, Barbie have done. However, it's hard to ignore said troubles in the industry." Very rounded statement. Thank you very much for that. I'm not going to finger point at one particular industry, because if you mention Marvel, if you then mention Disney, then they're the same company now, which means that the finger pointing seems to be I'm putting the whole blame there, which you could do. I'm not the biggest fan of Disney. The problem with Marvel is they're in their own trappings. Marvel is something that I collect as a comic, so I look forward to a Marvel film. But I look forward to it because I'm going to see now something I've read as a comic book turned into a film, and I want to see what the director visualization of that comic book was, what the strong points of the comic book story was, turned into film. The trouble with me is that I get great entertainment of them, and I love the fact that I can pick holes in them and say that wasn't in the book and see why they did it. To people that don't read the comic books, they go in hoping to be entertained and don't get the story. And I totally get that. So they're in their own trappings. Totally agree with Disney and the live action stuff. They've just done The Little Mermaid and a few other things, but they're aimed at children. And from that point of view, I'm not the audience that they're looking for. When it comes to my film history, I've got a greater respect for directors like Scorsese, De Palma, Spielberg, Ridley Scott, all of those famous directors that want to do films that push the envelope, that are based in real enactments or fiction told in a real world, not make-believe. The trouble is we can't have all films like that, because those would become boring. It's like, where's the light entertainment gone? Where's that? Why has that happened? So it's just that there isn't a balance right at the moment. Hollywood knows that you do a Marvel film, and it's either going to break even or do exceptionally well. It's not really going to flop. Um, if there are flops, it's because of a pandemic or something. People will still go in their droves and watch it. Point in taken, non-Marvel film, a series like Saw, which this week has come out of the cinema, Saw 10 or Saw X. The 10th one in the franchise. You'd think it would be starting to get stale, boring, but because we watched it and we've gone through years and years of watching the next one in the series, the next one in the series, the next one in the series, we'll go and watch that 10th film, no matter how weak it possibly could be. Now, I'm quite excited about Saw X. I'm quite looking forward to seeing it, but I'm not going to be that impactful as the first film ever was for me. It was something new. It was such a shock. It was a relief to see something that was so low budget make so much money. Um, like I say, it falls into its own trappings. That's the problem. So we'll get to your questions, because I think I've answered enough of that there. Number one, you've asked, did you play any of the theme games back in the day? If so, did you get enjoyment out of them? E.g., theme park, theme hospital. And you've mentioned the bullfrog games that mean an awful lot to me. Sim games, I love. Theme hospital was great. It had all these different diseases, bloaty tongue being one that I used to think was very entertaining. Elvis syndrome, where people came in dressed up as Elvis because they've got some sort of like medical disease that's making them be a bit like Elvis. But it was the building of the hospital, putting the furniture down, a bit like a doll's house. And then all of these diseases would come in, and you had to research all of the medication that they needed. Theme parks, similar vein, micromanagement of money, building roller coasters, and all of that sort of stuff. Fantastic. Um, Give you an insight as well about how theme parks work, why they don't work, the headaches they've got, like rubbish, um, enrollment of new staff members, all of that sort of stuff. Absolutely great. And I've played a number of other sim games like Railroad Tycoon and all of those sort of stuff. Sim City, I particularly loved back in the day. So, yes, very big, high, fond memories of those. You continue. Out of all the cars you've owned over the years, which was your favorite, as well as your least favorite, and why? Hard, hard, because you have a loyalty to your car choice, even if it was shoddy and awful back in the day. The first car I ever got was a Austin Maxi 1750 HL. Look it up. Atrocious car. Had it for 12 months. Yep. Um, People used to take the mickey out of me by saying 1750. That's not the engine size, is it? That was the year it was made. All of that sort of stuff. There's a little thing about driving old cars that's a joy. And I remember going down the road in that car for the first time after passing my test and just loving it. It was like, now I've got a vehicle for me to go outside of just walking into town. I can now visit all these villages and towns that I've been meaning to do, that I've only ever done really by rail, or get something that I need quicker by driving a car into town and so forth. So you ask what's my least favourite. So let's see. I had an Austin Maxi, and I had a Mark III Astra. I had a Ford Sierra. I had a Honda Accord, a Honda Civic, Audi A4. My current is an Audi A3. I drove my dad's cars. He had Humber Zeptors, Ford Consoles. Every single one has a memory with them. My dad would say that the older cars were the better ones because he could work on them. He could fix them. If I had a problem, he'd have an idea about how much it would cost without even going anywhere with them. He didn't like newer cars where you can't even get a spanner or a screwdriver down the engine mount because it's all electronic these days and it's all hooking up to this diagnosis machine that will tell you exactly where it's gone wrong due to sensors all over the bodywork of your car. But to me, again, I'm so techie and future that I think to myself, isn't that for the betterment? But I digress. What's the worst one? I should think my Sierra. The Ford Sierra was atrocious. It got broken into twice, both times in Manchester. They bent the door out from the top outwards to get to the stereo player that was in there. Even though I'd removed the front fascia, the stereo, they'd still nick it. I don't know if that's just because of Manchester or not, but I never had anything broken into when I was at home. So I don't know. But yeah, I'm going to stick with the Sierra as probably being the worst one. The Sierra as well, I always look at that car as being the car that stopped uniqueness in cars. You know, where you had a shape, you know, you knew the TR7, you knew the Escort, you knew the Astra. When the Sierra came along, it turned every car into the same sort of similar design, but either longer, bigger, or wider than the last one. It had that rounded design that we even have today. So you could say it was ahead of its time, or you could turn around and say it hindered the car industry. Your favourite Commodore 64 Ocean Loader track? Oh my God. I've loved all of the Ocean Loader tracks. The Daley Thompson Decathlon loader had Rydeen by the Yellow Magic Orchestra, which I didn't know at the time, but it was such a hooky type tune that I was humming it, and I would sometimes load the game up, and when the loading music would come up, I'd stop the tape, which stopped the game from loading, and the music would continue to play in a loop. But I think if I was thinking back of the Ocean Loaders, and I think there were 4 or 5, 4, I think. The one that was in Rambo, which I think is Ocean Loader 2, is probably my favourite. So varied, so lovely, so filtery and loud. So many things I love about that tune. And the last question you've got is, do you believe in the Loch Ness Monster or any other mythical creatures such as Bigfoot? I'll tell you what, I'm open-minded. Very open-minded. There are so many people that go, you must be mental for thinking that existed. But then there are all those things that they bring up as evidence that make you think twice. Just because I haven't seen it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's always something that I've lived by. So I'm open-minded. I wouldn't say I believe in the Loch Ness Monster. I wouldn't say I believe in Bigfoot. What I will say is, I'm not saying that they didn't exist, couldn't exist, or similar. And so they baffle me and entertain me whenever I see documentaries on it. Thank you so much. What great questions and a great structure to an analogy of something that was talked about last week. Loved it. Thank you so much. We moved to Jambon. He's put, hi, Del. Well, hi Dale, thanks for another interesting vlog and hope you've had a better week. Particularly enjoyed this week's film chat where you touched on all the troubles that the industry is facing. I wish that industry, I wish that instead of making one generic superhero film for 200 million, um, then instead use the money to make 10 more original and interesting lower budget films and pay the staff properly. Sadly, though, films seem to be geared towards the lowest common denominator, and apparently they like to see expensive CGI, things hitting each other and for hours on end, time and time again. I'm surprised to hear there's a 4K version of The Toxic Avenger. I thought the whole point of those trauma films was that they were low budget and rough around the edges. Mentioned an awful lot there, so I need to sort of like stop. But yes, you're quite right. We talked about it just now with Marvel, and I said they're in their own trappings, and you're quite right. They regularly cost over 100 million. Hollywood seem to love spending that money on them, and diminishing returns every year, which would seem to indicate they're starting to become stale and stagnant. Put the money into a smaller independent film, and you've got a more interesting film at a cheaper price that a lot of people would see and therefore make more money. If only things were really, though, that simple. That's the problem. So I'm totally in agreement with what you said. If I even if I do have my own opinion on it, which is I like films that entertain me. It doesn't matter where it comes from. I will say that. So you carry on. I hope you enjoy your new version of The Wicker Man. I love how it's now described as being part of the unholy trilogy of films that kicked off the folk horror genre alongside Witchfinder General and The Blood on Satan's Claw. And yes, I've seen those two films as well. And yes, totally agree with that. I don't think there's much else that you can say other than certain films kick off certain titles, therefore career track, if you see what I mean. So yeah, I'm in agreement with you there without having to go into too much deliberation. I have a Swinbuckle-esque question this week that based on an improbable scenario, if that's okay. You wake up in a hospital bed, the doctor is standing over you, he tells you the surgery went well, but there was just one hitch. Your brain has been affected, and they've had to give you a new voice. The one they give you is based on a celebrity voice. Which celebrity voice are you hoping to have now? And which are you hoping it isn't? I'm hoping it's not a woman's voice. Who wants a high pitched voice when you're a bloke? So that's easy. What voice would I like to have? I'd like one with a bit of stature, like Tom Baker, a bit of character. Richard Burton. Oh my God, yeah. I'd like to have Richard Burton's voice. Yes. Childhood beggars and raises belief in me that Richard Burton could read out the yellow pages and I'd be interested with that voice. So I'm going to stick with that. Thanks again and hope you take care, mate. No, my pleasure, matey. Thank you so much. I hope I answered your question well, Jam Bomb. We're going to move to Colin because we're getting very close to the end now. So Colin is a great pal of mine, very entertaining. Must see his channel. Lots and lots of stuff for you to deliberate there. Has stated, going for a walk when you're not feeling well is good, even if you don't make your goal in steps. Tax dodging for those big companies really does bug me, but not enough for me to stop using them. I'd just be me losing out. I was shopping last Saturday. There was certainly no shortage of people around. I think they both have their place. Some things are better online. Clothes are definitely better in person. And even though I hate it, I actually prefer to do grocery shopping in person. They can never get the substitutions right. Love Whizball on the C64. Declan Rogue Zero is definitely worth buying as the controller. It works just fine with a CD32 controller or a PS3 Xbox with an adapter native on the Mr. or Mr. Mouster it on real hardware, he's put. Probably the best original game released on the Amiga this century. So we're talking a bit here about last week where Stephen of Gaming of the 70s had bought an Amiga game which had given a small donation to, was having great fun with, and I said I'm going to definitely get round to watching it, and I will. I haven't done so yet. So I have to sort of like totally agree with everything that you've put there, Ponder. I know it's not probably what you want to hear, but it's just that sometimes a question will come out, an answer will be given, and the answer is the same for both of us. And I think you'll find that's because the majority think it's exactly the same way. So that's great. It's always hard to think of a question that hasn't been asked. So I tried to be obscure or repeat without realised. But here goes. What's your favourite pre-PlayStation console? Oh my god. Pre-PlayStation, so 2000 and before. 2001 and before. Love the Dreamcast. Thought it was a great idea. Shame it bombed. Love the VCS. Love the ColecoVision. Didn't like Amstrad or Commodore's own console renditions. So I'm going to go with... what am I going to go with? The SNES. I'm going to go with the SNES because piracy, I have to say. It was the one that I got the most out of because I was able to dump game cartridges to floppy disk using a utility called the Magicom system. So, of course, I got a huge amount of nostalgia because I was able to copy just about any game that came out. So that answers that, I think. Dreamcast would have possibly been a close second. It's had such some massive great ideas that with a bit of thought would have made added to the longevity. It's just a shame. We then moved to Seb's place, but again there's a knock at the door, so just bear with me a moment. Stupid me, it weren't a knock at the door at all. It was just something fell over at the back there. So we'll move on. I'm so sorry. Don't like to do jump cuts. They've come in quite handy with my health just recently, but I'm trying to do it so that I can go all the way through. The nice thing is that the noise is sort of like decreased a little bit. So hopefully, fingers crossed, things till the end now. Seb's place. So here we go with Seb. I just want to say thank you very much, though, to Colin Ponder for his question. He's put, "Hi Del," Seb has said. "Great vlog as always. I want to do some C64 games like Whizball, which were huge on the C64, but not so popular on other systems. If you can offer any ideas, that would be great." And oh my God, thank you so much for asking. Of course I will. I've got a way that I can contact you. I'll certainly mention some titles that I think deserve your attention. I won't give you any opinion of them. I'd like you to do that fresh yourself, but I will definitely get some to you. Leave that with me. Probably work on that this afternoon, to be quite honest. If not, it will be this week. So thank you so much for that, Seb. We move to David's Retro Games Played Badly. Red 5 is on my Sky watch list. I haven't got round to it yet. Number 2, love Dungeon Keeper. Number 3, vaguely remember Molecule Man. Wasn't he a tad geeky but extremely powerful? Yes, he was. That was a talk again from last week. Whizball is classic, as you said. Practice needs to get the most out of it, and oh my god, there's never a statement been more truer than that line there. Thanks for the kind words. My pleasure, matey. Look, I say good things about things that I see that are good. If I don't think they're good, I'll mention it. I don't like people wasting my time with a shoddy product or something that alienates or is so opinionated it alienates everyone. So there's that. Hated June. 2 hours of the director showing us how sandy sand is. Yeah, that's a bit harsh. But yeah, I know where you're coming from. It was a picture of its time, and even back then, it was hated and not liked. Only later on, when they've done a remake and people have gone back to the original, have people turned around and said how controversial the film was and how pivotal it was um, for moving forward with that genre. So yeah, I can see all that. Great trailers. Thanks for the company. Oh, that's my pleasure. Doff my cap, and I can't wait to see more and more of your own product there, David. That's brilliant. And finally, we got Martroid. For me, the 80s home computer scene was and remains really thrilling, and movies like Electric Dreams were wonderfully encouraging. Also, I absolutely love the TV show WizKids, which I'm sure you've seen and probably talked about loads. I haven't talked about it loads, but I have talked about it. So nice to know um, things are thrilling for you. And I agree with you. Electric Dreams is one of those films where um, it should have been more about technology, but ended up being a um, life lessons movie. Saying that though, um, I love Wendy Carlos's electronic music and how she used Moog synthesizers. So it was great to see computers brought into that. And that's the end of those questions. Oh my god. Not bad. And we're just about to move into watched on YouTube, but I've just got there has been a knock at the door now, so I'm gonna have to check that. Won't be a moment. You are very patient with me. Thank you so much. Let's try and get this through now. If any interruptions happen, we'll handle that. I think you can see that I'm perfectly okay. There's nothing stopping me. I should think from going forward with my health reasons. So we move on now to watched on YouTube, and I'm going to change this a little bit here because I feel that I probably talk too much about what I've watched, and it stops you from going and watching it. So I'm just going to mention the channels, just say a little bit about it, probably less than I've done before. So, as you know, there are two main points that I do with the watched on YouTube, and that is This Week in Retro and Techmoan. And Techmoan didn't come out with one this week, so that makes it a little bit easier. This Week in Retro is great because I like the subject matter and it's all about retro computers and all of that sort of stuff. Their subjects this week were games and software that came with your computer, or what they call pack-ins. That was great. Um, the fact that last month was called Sept Tandy, and they were saying that Sept Tandy is now Sept over. That was good. That was about the Tandy computer range. Definitely worth a listen than that. That computer deserves a little bit more than it gets in regards to how history treats it. And then there was a guy who's actually tried a different technique to do things on the Nintendo 64, where now when we do textures in games that are 3D, we do near and far definitions of the textures. They've started to use another technique, and there's been a tech demo, and the results are outstanding. And I looked and I thought, wow, that does look good. If only that was around during its life spell. So what else did I watch? I'm interested in getting a streaming box. Now, what do I mean by a streaming box? One of these boxes that go on your hi-fi system, which have got the same type of hi-fi connectors at the back that could go on your amp, that you could connect your record deck to, your CD player to, only it's a streaming box. So basically it's got a liquid crystal display on it, and it can stream your podcasts and your music from Prime and Apple and all of that on. There are 3 distinct ones on the market that I was interested in. One called the Name Atom the Name Atom. That's NAIM Atom. There's also one called the NAD M1 V2. And then there's the third one, which is the one that I was most interested in, the Cambridge Evo 150. Now, I advise you to Google those because there's no real one channel that gives you a definitive answer about any of them, review-wise, comparison-wise, or whatever. The one I saw was from a channel called Hi-Fied, which is spelled HIFYED. But these devices range in price of $2,000 to $3,000, and it puts me off. They do have an awful lot in them. Most of them don't have speakers, so you connect it to an amp. But they basically are your phone's MP3 player hooked into an amp, and $3,000 is just too much. But they are beautiful. I mean, we are talking absolute pinnacle of hi-fi equipment, and it makes me want to have one. I won't be getting one anytime soon, but I'm going to watch how these develop, whether they get good firmware updates, whether they listen to what people are saying about them at the moment. Because I tell you what, out of all of them, none of them are touchscreen. They all use jog dials and remotes. So it's just, I'd really like it because I do like album art, the words and lyrics coming up on the display, how long the track is, how far you are into the track, the year it came out, all of that information. Love it. So I'll look into that. Then there was a channel called Dan's Movie Cave, and this is prominent because of some of the film stuff I do. It was the title of the episode I saw was Current State of Physical Media, in regards mostly to films. Okay, it's very, very much in my mind at the moment. Being a collector, you can see them all piling up behind me there. I buy an awful lot, and physical media is on the decline. There is a resurgence in certain sectors, but for the most part, there are less and less of them. More and more gimmicks coming in to make us buy them. But from the point of view of the collector, it's the film that's the important part. My opinion is, long may physical media reign. I am not a fan of streaming films. Watch it and it'll tell you the reasons why physical has a place still. I did read this because it's not far away now. The channel was called Virtual Reality Oasis, and it's because the MetaQuest 3, the VR headset MetaQuest, is on its 3rd version, out very shortly. 2 versions of it are coming out, 128 gig version and a 512 gig version. They are priced at £479 for the lower one, £619 at the higher one. They are out the 10th of October. If you buy the highest version at that extremely high price, you do get 6 months of Quest Plus membership. Now, this is I don't know if I can show you. This is a MetaQuest 2, which I have great fun with. Still here, still go on it. And the 3rd version was very interesting to me. There's more cameras at the front. They're using more physical type changes, where the glasses now for outside are not black and white and blurry. They are actual cameras. So you're seeing a direct see-through, but they do that mixed media thing where you can add graphics to it. You can have pictures on the wall that are virtual. Um, but it, you know, some people would look at that as being a gimmick, but it actually could turn into a game in certain ways. You could even do room planning. You know, if you wanted to change your room, you could put your goggles on, you know, the VR headset, and you could have move things like the bed around by just picking it up and placing it down, because you can put the dimensions in and all sorts of stuff. Um, so I am interested in it, but the price is definitely making me step back and think twice. Um, Definitely worth a watch. I mentioned Seb's Place before. He did a great video of Spellbound. Now, what I didn't know was that there was a bloke and a company that basically stole the code of Spellbound and made their own game. I love videos like that. They're absolutely brilliant. They tell me just what shitheads are out there that do that, how people tried to get away with things. And I mentioned in a comment to him saying this went on in the 80s, the early 80s, but they got away with it because it wasn't really, it was an industry on the start. We used to have music from Jar albums in games, and most of them didn't get pounced upon at all for doing that. But to actually take the whole code, change the graphics, and produce it as your own game, terrible. Definitely worth a watch. Seb's Place, and it's about Spellbound in particular and how it was stolen. And then there was a retrospective under a channel called Linus Tech Tips that was looking at laserdiscs. Laserdiscs are in my mind at the moment. Not only do I have a good friend who's literally going to send me a dozen laserdiscs to me because he knows I've still got a laserdisc player. This guy did a retrospective and told us basically what a good thing it was. It gets so many knocks, the laserdisc, and yet it was a big part of my collection, having laserdisc. The features it had back then were so feature rich, it was unbelievable. The price, yeah, a little on the high side, as much as a DVD player was the first week, is how much a DVD player still was at that time. A laserdisc player was, sorry. So it wasn't cheap, but it was the best way of seeing a film for a long time. And I've got very fond memories. And then we get to the stuff that I've done on panels, all the stuff that I've done with films, and my good friends that have their own channels. The first one being Rock God, 2004. Such a great bloke. I've been on a few channels now with him and had conversations with him. I get to know him more and more every time we speak. He leaves me little audio messages when he can't get through to me. Always makes me smile, always wants to know if I'm doing okay. He did a subscriber mail and what I've watched this week video, which is great because when people do what I watched this week, they sometimes are of titles that you haven't thought of in a long time or brand new. Absolutely fantastic. People who do that are thinking ahead on what we want to see as a video channel. Absolutely brilliant. Then there is Let's Get Kicking Movie, which is Ryan. I was with him on Tuesday and last night. We did a watch along. If anybody wants to know what a watch along is, we download a movie or get a movie out that we've got on DVD or Blu-ray, put it in, pause it at 2 seconds. So we all do that. We encourage other people to do that. And at the same time, we unpause and watch the film together. And we've got a sort of like a little eye looking to see people's facial expressions when something's happened in the film that's relatively gory or shocking. Absolutely fantastic. And then we have a little debate and a chat about it at the end. And of course, you can participate by doing exactly the same thing. We watched 2 this week. One was Class of Nukem High. The other one was, now let me see if I can get this right. Poultrygeist, Night of the Chicken Dead. Very, very low budget, what they call a trauma film. Full of gore, full of bad taste, jokes all over the shop. Some of them have got songs which are the least part for me, but I've had the most fun watching those with my friends this week. And my God, Poultrygeist, what a film. Oh my God. That is so gory and so over the top, batshit crazy film that I've ever seen. I can't say any more than that. Playtendo guy did a follow up on he did a unboxing of It Follows, which I showed you the box artwork last week because I bought it myself. That was very interesting. Scott, the movie geek, I was on his panel on Friday and a blast of a time. I watched 2 films of him with the watch-alongs that I've just mentioned. He's done a video of his most underrated films in his collection. Films that you should watch because they go under the radar, but are equally as good as an AAA plus film from Hollywood at the moment. Definitely worth a try. And that concludes what I watched on YouTube. So we got through that all right. That wasn't too bad, was it? And then there's what I've watched of your stuff, and these are the main ones. And every single one was blisteringly great. I'm mentioning them like a shout out, really, but I will just talk briefly about what was there. So we have Down the Rabbit Hole. He did a couple of videos. He did a game called Vectrex Cliff Jump, which was a Vectrex version of one of the events in summer games, where you jump off a cliff, do spins, land in the water, get a mark. All done in vector graphics. Looked lovely. I would definitely buy it if I had a Vectrex system. And then he did an Atari 50th anniversary retrospective of paddle games and how they don't really work with current controller technology, which I do hope Atari are listening to, because those are definitely games that have got a longevity, definitely games that we still want to play around now, but you don't recognize paddles and things from the past on the media that you're bringing this out on, like the PS5, the PS4, the Xbox 360, and in some ways the PC even. Brilliant. He's done a couple more videos, but I didn't get to see them because they were done yesterday. One of them is a Blade Runner video, which I'm most looking forward to watching. So you've got my attention, Down the Rabbit Hole. I'll be commenting on that very shortly. Then we've got Steve, gaming since the 70s. He did some retrospective gameplay on a couple of games. Vindaloo comes to mind, as does Minigun and Monty on the Run for the Game Boy. And last but not least, Atlantis on the Commodore 16. The thing I like about his channel is that not only are they bringing fluffy games from our past that we get very nostalgic for, the stuff that we've missed, plus homebrew. And so that is a must watch, and we must go to his channel. I'll read it out again. Gaming since the 70s. Definitely worth your time. Then we got Robert's Retro Gaming, which is a stay point of mine. I watch it every week. Not only do I love Minecraft, which I need to go back to, I think, a little bit now because it's been far too long. He's up to episode 77 of his Minecraft in Exile series. But he also did some 8-bit gaming on Atari systems. They were Crossfire, Alex, and Robbery. Definitely worth a watch. Very insightful. Knowledge abound every time he's playing a game. And you're seeing now some more of the obscure titles beyond the norm. So we all know the norm ones that for the Atari Space Invaders, E.T., Adventure, um, all of those sort of games, Yar's Revenge, and all that sort of stuff. And he's playing more up to date homebrew or games that were in the past that fall under the radar. Definitely watch his channel. With Mainmeister, I did more with him this week than I've done for a long time. I did a nice and nasty podcast with him where I mentioned my 3 favourite games that I would like to take on a desert island with me, and 3 games that I feel should never have been released. And did I sweat over that? My God, did I? It's very difficult when you've got 40 plus years of history of games to play to draw and just say these are the 3 games I'll take to a desert island with me, and I can play nothing else. And games that I can put in some sort of sin bin and get them wiped off the face of the earth. And I tell you what, that the hardest thing was getting rid of the ones that are the face of the earth, because there are so many bad games, to be quite honest, all deserving of my attention on why they were being removed. Then we got Ponder, who did a blog, which I told you about last week. It was blog 58, and he did not disappoint. What a great blog it was. Lots and lots of information, lots and lots of information going on in his life at the moment. Brilliant. And last but not least, we've got LFC Gamer and Vlogs, because he did a film retrospective of games that films he'd watched this week, and changes to his community tab, which is something that we all of us on YouTube have got, where we can poll things or ask you guys and gals what you'd like to see. He's going to start using that a lot more. And then we've got, lastly, 20th Century Gaming, or my mate Mark, and basically he played some walkthroughs and some random gameplay of Commodore 64 stuff. All in all, a fantastic week of stuff for me to watch. And we now get to the stuff that I've bought. So we're nearing the end. And quite a lot came in last week, but oh my God, it continued into this week. So we'll change camera. There we go, and I'll wave to it. And I'll just put these up, just so that you can see what they are. So we have got the completion now of my movie vault collection for the time being, because there are 8 of them, and I've got all 8. We have Apollo 13. Look at the size of that box. The things that you get with it. I'll just hold that up so you can see. There is a numbered crystal, art cards, pictures, posters, the film itself. And should a film like Apollo 13 be put into a vault box like this? Absolutely. What a film. And then they followed that up with 2001, A Space Odyssey. And what more can you say about that film? The film that made me want to play Elite. Docking with space stations, finding out where we came from. Stanley Kubrick definitely came up with a classic on that. As you can see, equal amount of extra goodies in there. Pictures, posters, the same numbered crystal that you got with Apollo 13 and all the others. Absolutely spot on. Then we've got a really old classic that's just got the 4K remaster treatment. It Came from Outer Space. Yes, a 1950s type science fiction horror. Just been given a 4K steelbook restoration. There are some promotional cards. There is artwork, a 38-page booklet, and a slipcase for this. It doesn't come with 3D glasses. The film did come out as 3D in the cinema. Definitely worth your attention. It's a beautiful slipcase, and I'm sure the steelbook inside is equally as lovely. Then Rock God told me that one of my favourite horror films, Creepshow, had a TV series, and I'd forgotten about it. And I checked, and they weren't in this country and the region 1 until last week. So I picked up all 3. There are 4 seasons in total. The 4th season comes out December, so not long to wait now. So you've got Creepshow Season 1, which has got 12 stories. Creepshow Season 2, which has got 11 stories. And then I believe this one again is 21 or 22. It is Creepshow Season 3. All with lovely artwork, running time, etc. And Creepshow is just one of those films that I absolutely adore. It's one of my top science, top monster anthology type productions. Next, we've got Cutthroat Island, a film that bombed when it came out. It was a Rennie Harlin film. Gina Davis and Rennie Harlin were married at this particular point. It was at one point as well the most expensive film ever made. It bombed. Now, many discuss why they think it bombed. Some of it is special effects, definitely jarring. Some of it is it just doesn't excite, and a pirate film should. I'm going to let you draw your own conclusions. Just going to let you know what a beautiful steelbook it is. Lovely golds in there. This finally came out this week, which is Guardians of the Galaxy Part 3, the last of the Guardian Galaxy films that we know of. Picture on this one is sublime. And when it comes to the plot, a lot of people love it. And I'm so really looking forward to seeing that. This one also has an IMAX section. So, of course, the screen picture is going to really jump up when that comes up. And then I'm really excited over this. This is a box set. It is of Psycho. So you've got all the Psycho films. That is Psycho 1, Psycho 2, Psycho 3, Psycho 4. And it tells the story, really, of Mr. Bates. Okay. And his struggles with his mother's death, and basically how he went on a murdering spree, all operated from his house, the Bates Motel house. Psycho 2 is probably one of the best sequels that could sometimes be thought of as being better than the original. I won't say that. It's not that great from my perspective, but still absolutely fantastic. There isn't really one bad one amongst there. Some people would say the fourth one ended it correctly. It should have ended there. It did end there. There's no more Psychos. But I'll tell you what, Psycho 4 gets a bad rep again, and it's not bad at all. And that ends that. So we'll go back to camera view. And we're going to see some trailers. Hopefully you're going to like these trailers. I'll turn the sound off. I get immense joy showing off these trailers. They're things that I've watched or are going to watch this week. Maybe it will intrigue you to look yourself. So here we go with the first one. Hopefully no copyright strikes. I'll let you know if there are when I'm uploading. But if you find that my blog is up later, it's probably because of that. So here we go. I'm going to turn the sound off from my mic, and hopefully you'll be able to hear it in the video.
We set sail for Cutthroat Island!
Put your backs into it.
Why don't you row?
Why don't you swim?
We can't leave yet, Captain. We haven't put enough food on board.
We need less mouths.
I really think that from now on we should be partners. 50-50. 60-40. I find myself being fired upon by an entire ship! Give me the map.
Give me a kiss first.
Come to seek my treasure, have you?
Let's finish this.
So I'm making lots of mistakes now. Hopefully you can jump cut this yourself or cut it out. I'll try and do so. But basically, you saw what was there was Cutthroat Island. I think I'll start again with this media view and play all of these again. So I do apologise. And here we go with Cutthroat Island again. I'll get it back to the beginning and turn the microphone off.
We set sail for Cutthroat Island!
Put your backs into it.
Why don't you row?
Why don't you swim?
We can't leave yet, Captain. We haven't put enough food on board.
We need less mouths.
I really think that from now on we should be partners. 50-50.
60-40.
I find myself being fired upon by an entire ship!
Give me the map.
Give me a kiss first.
Come to seek my treasure, have you?
Let's finish this.
Who are you?
You know it's okay to be scared, right?
You gonna tell me what this is all about?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. You've killed before. You'll kill again.
I see what you did there.
There are things in the corners of this world.
Help me!
They'll drive you insane. A new generation of horror has risen from the dead. You're in for it now.
Why?
It's the way it's supposed to be.
Welcome to voice print identification. When you see the red light go on, would you please state in the following order your destination, your nationality, and your full name?
Moon, American, Floyd, Haywood R.
Thank you. You are cleared through voice print identification.
Thank you.
Quite frankly, we have had some very reliable intelligence reports that quite a serious epidemic has broken out at Clavis.
I know there have been some conflicting views held by some of you. regarding the need for complete security.
Something apparently of an unknown origin.
However, I accept the need for absolute secrecy in this.
This is in fact what has happened. I'm really not at liberty to discuss this.
We thought it might be the upper part of some buried structure, so we excavated out on all sides, but unfortunately we didn't find anything else.
It hasn't been covered up by natural erosion or other forces. It seems to have been deliberately buried.
4-million-year-old black monolith has remained completely inert, except for a single, very powerful radio emission.
3 weeks ago, the American spacecraft Discovery 1 left on its half-billion-mile voyage to Jupiter.
The sixth member of the Discovery crew was the HAL 9000 computer.
Everything is going extremely well.
One gets the sense that he is capable of emotional responses.
Well, hell, I'm damned if I can find anything wrong with him.
No 9000 computer has ever made a mistake or distorted information.
Look, Dave, I can't put my finger on it, but I sense something strange about it.
Just a moment. Just a moment.
Do you know what happened?
I'm sorry, Dave. I don't have enough information.
Made radio contact with him yet?
The radio is still dead.
Hello, Hal, do you read me? Hello, Hal, do you read me? You read me, Hal? Do you read me, Hal?
This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it.
I don't know what you're talking about, Hal.
This conversation can serve no purpose anymore.
Gentlemen, the events that I'm about to describe are going to sound incredible to most people. But I know they happened. I saw them happen. They happened to me. One night, not very long ago, my fiancée and I saw a meteor-like object flash through the sky and fall to Earth in the Arizona desert. I was the first one to go into the smoking pit where it landed. The only one to realize that this meteor was a spaceship. I looked into it. I alone knew that the beings it carried, formless, terrifying beings from outer space, planned to conquer the world. And so fiendishly, by entering into the bodies and minds of captured human beings. Wouldn't it be a fine trick if I weren't really John Putnam at all? But something from another world come here to give you a lot of false leads. What do you want? What are you doing? Let me see you as you really are. No, you're not Ellen. You've got Ellen's clothes, but you're not Ellen.
By 743 people against Norman Bates' release.
Madam, please sit down. This matter is being represented by the district attorney.
Norman was not convicted of murder. He was found not guilty by reason of insanity.
Don't you realize they're going to release a homicidal maniac?
I'm asking you to sit down, Mrs. Loomis.
It's all too obvious. Our courts protect the criminals, not their victims.
Norman Bates is judged, restored to sanity, and is ordered released forthwith.
It's 22 years later, and Norman Bates is coming home.
I own a motel not too far from here. And you'd be welcome to spend the night in one of the empty rooms if you'd like.
Good night, Mary.
And he's back in business.
Who is this? My mother is dead. I'm telling you, there was a note on that wheel from my dead mother.
Norman, it couldn't be your mother. It had to be someone else.
But trust her. She would never do anything to hurt me. No. She'll kill you. I know she will. No, I won't do that. You can't make me kill her.
22 years later, Norman Bates is home. Psycho 2.
It's starting again.
On the 13th minute of the 13th hour, the 13th Apollo mission was launched. A million things could have gone wrong.
Our next broadcast will be from the surface of the moon.
On April 13th, one did.
Houston, we have a problem.
We got a wicked shimmy up here.
Houston, we are venting something out into space. It's definitely a gas of some sort.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
It must be the oxygen.
You see what I see?
Fight. Their heart rates are skyrocketing.
We have a 401 alarm.
That can't be real.
Oh, man, it is fighting me. Jack, what's the story here?
I keep losing radio signal. That can't happen. It's got to be instrumentation. And we got some serious time pressure here. We're looking at less than 15 minutes of life support left.
It's like they're all over the place.
Damn, we're losing it.
We never lost an American in space. We're sure as hell not going to lose one on my watch.
Yes, and like I say, apologies again. I've never quite made so many mistakes in my life, and I'll see if I can cut some of that out. But of course, I also realise that this is just a blog really for my nephew and nieces, and I like to entertain and give you guys something. All of the trailers that I wanted to show you are still there. I just cocked up with intros and that sort of thing. And I pray that next week I'll do so much better. The reason for that Psycho was this brilliant box set, absolutely gorgeous, arrived. I got 2 copies. There's another story about that, but just look at the detail on this. All 4 films, all 4K. All the artwork is reversible. You've got the old style covers or the new style for this particular box set. Exceptional value. Definitely worth your money if you're into that type of thing. And like I say, next week, a new week. Let's hope for a good one. And I apologize that I got a couple of minutes wrong in there, and I hope it didn't distract. And And with that, I'm going to say salute. So embarrassed, but I'm human. Thank you for noticing, the humanity in me. And I'll see you next week. Hope you enjoyed everything anyway. Bye-bye.